Okay. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, members of council. Welcome back to Canada, those of you who were away last week. And before that, welcome staff and members of the public. Our deputy mayor has given her regrets this evening, and so our former deputy mayor is going to sit in and read the acknowledgement this evening.
Thank you, Mayor Donovan. I would like to acknowledge Wolfville is situated in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, and as such, ask that we conduct our business with the 7 sacred teachings in mind: truth, honesty, love, courage, respect, wisdom, and humility.
Thank you. And if I could have a motion to approve the agenda, please.
I would move that the agenda be approved as circulated and or amended.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the agenda as received? Seeing not.
Okay.
So we have had a mover for the agenda. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Palmadeer. Are there any amendments to the agenda as received and circulated? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's passed. And we have 2 sets of minutes. First, motion to approve the town council meeting minutes of April 16th.
I would move that the minutes of the town council meeting of April 16th, 2024 be approved as circulated and or amended.
And the seconder, please.
I'll second that.
You can do the next one,
With
Councillor
voice.
Butler. Councillor Ingham, are there any errors or omissions in those minutes? Seeing no hands, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, those are passed. And this special town council meeting of April 26th.
I would move that minutes of the special town council meeting of April 26, 2024 be approved as circulated and or amended.
Thank you. A seconder, please.
I'll
Thank you,
second those.
Councillor Butler.
Okay.
Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That brings us to motions from Committee of the Whole, May 7th. And the first one is RFD 029-2024, the 2024 Budget and Operational Work Plan. And before I ask Councillor Butler to put this motion on, I will ask staff if they wish to do a presentation. Okay, there may be questions, so you may want to come up or stay there. It's totally up to you. All right, Councillor Butler, would you put the motion on the floor, please?
Certainly. If at any time you can't hear me or anything, everyone just wave their hands because I'm probably going to be staring down for a little bit, just reading. I would move that council approve the 2024-2025 town operating budget, 10-year capital investment plan, and the water utility operating and capital budget, including the following details. Town operating budget with revenue and expenditures in the amount of $15,142,000. Residential tax rate of $1.4655 per $100 of assessment applied to taxable residential and resource assessments. Commercial tax rate of $3.5655 per $100 of assessment applied to taxable commercial assessments. Taxes to be billed by way of interim tax bill issued in April, due May 31st, 2024, and final tax bill issued in August, due October 1st, 2024. Interest on overdue amounts to be charged at a rate of 1.00% per month compounded. Town capital budget with year 1 totaling $5,647,900, including capital reserve funding of $2,243,100, operating reserve funding of $207,700, long-term debt funding of $709,200, active transportation grant funding of $474,900, a COA grant funding of $403,300, Provincial Sustainable Service Growth Fund of $485,000, other grant funding of $771,000, and other external grant and or contribution funding of $353,700. Water utility operating budget with operating revenues of $1,519,400, operating expenditures of $1,416,900, non-operating revenues of $43,600, and non-operating expenditures of $214,400. Water utility capital budget totaling $679,100, including depreciation reserve funding of $98,600, municipal capital growth funding of $287,500, capital from revenue funding of $40,000, long-term debt of $230,000, and accumulated surplus funding of $23,000. Fire protection area rate pursuant to Section 80 of the Municipal Government Act of $0.0555 per $100 of assessment. Business development area rate pursuant to Section 56 of the Municipal Government Act of $0.23 per $100 of commercial assessment. Sewer fees. Sewer usage rate of $7.08 per 1,000 gallons of water used by customer. Flat rate fee of $135.70 per quarter. Minimum quarterly charge for any metered customer, $29.85. Sewer connection fee of $6,500. Water connection fee of $6,500. Sewer and water connection fee of $6,500. Low income property tax assessment. Income threshold to qualify a maximum of 45.
That should be exemption.
Exemption. Oh, low income property tax exemption. Thank you. Ah, I was doing so good. Income threshold to qualify a maximum of $45,000. Maximum tax exemption of $1,040. That's it.
Okay. Just before I get a seconder for that, and I will in a moment, my apologies. I'm following a motions list and not the agenda. So there are two items. My apologies. That's my mistake. After we go through this motion, I will go back to the agenda. So those of you who are here for public input, again, my apologies. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Madeira Voss. Are there any questions of staff or comments before we have a vote on this motion? Comment, whatever you'd like. Go ahead, Councillor McKay.
Generic one. I just wanted to thank the staff for this year. It has been a journey, a ride to get to here. So I think we started out with Mike, passed it off to Aaron, who happens to be in the crowd. And then passed it on to Beth and Rob. And so I just wanted to say thank you. It's been, I think we've all felt a responsibility to keep on the knowledge base, and we've had many questions and many iterations throughout this, but you've come back with a great budget, and I look forward to all the things you'll put into place over the year to come. So thanks so much for all the work that went into it. It's been a ride, and we'll start again in 6 months.
Thank you, Councillor McKay. Are there other comments or questions? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is passed, and I think we all echo our appreciation to staff for that work. Thank you. Now, Councillor Butler, do not leave because we have a few more budget ones, but I would like to go back. I have a few comments, Mayor's comments, one of which was going to be to thank staff for their work. There are a number of things happening in the next month, some of which will happen before the next time I get to make comments. First is the WBDC's AGM is on the 11th of June, starting at 5 o'clock at Troy. So all those members of our business community who might be listening, I know you've got an invitation, but I look forward, and I'm sure other members of council who will be there, look forward to seeing you. There is a Valley Wren AGM on the 19th of June. That is at Bent Ridge Winery, which I looked up. I wasn't familiar with that winery. It's south of Windsor on the way to Windsor Forks. Pardon? Martok. And the great event of the season is June 24th. Everybody be downtown on Main Street, pray for good weather. That's the Horton Grad, beginning at 5:30. And just to say, I had the great honor last week of sitting through 3 days of convocation, and it was quite lovely. I'm trying to get a list. There was a list of students, some of whom I recognized as graduating with honors, some of whom I recognized as Wolfville students, and I'm hoping that I have asked Acadia if they could give us a list of graduates, in particular the honors grads who are Wolfville students, so that we can recognize them. But it was lovely weather. It was, they were great ceremonies, and it was a real pleasure to be there. Do any other members of council wish to add comments? Councillor McKay?
Thank you. On the same night as grad is also our Wolfville School Family Fun Fair. So it's going to be a busy night.
Oh,
So
wow.
walk downtown and come down and see the grad. And June is Pride Month.
Yes. I was gonna say.
Right, public input.
Oh, sorry, can I?
Sorry, I
yeah,
didn't see your light on.
Yeah, so I just want to reiterate next week, the Access Awareness event that's at L'Arche. It's from 5 to 6:30 on Monday,
Monday.
May the 27th. I just want to promote that again. It's going to be great. Everybody come out. I hope everybody on sitting around this table is there. And Pride Month too, next month. So there'll be a lot of stuff. June is a busy month.
June is a very busy month. Good thing we got this budget passed. All right, public input. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address council for public input? Carolyn? You now have up to 5 minutes.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, yeah, so I have a few comments. I'll try to keep to my 5 minutes. I could probably fill 30. I know you've all been really busy, not only staff, but council. So
Caroline, could you just introduce yourself and
Oh,
where you
sorry.
live, please?
Yeah, thank you for the work you do. My name's Caroline Whitby and I live at Maple Avenue. So I'm going to make some comments, and first one is about the budget. I only had a chance to follow some of the process and look over it over the weekend, and I was away when you had your public consultation. There's been some good discussion. I would definitely agree that moving forward, and I think a lot of my comments can apply to the coming year, shall we say, there definitely needs to be more information coming from Acadia about the pool. And one question I have is, I do use the facility regularly, and many of the people that I meet and know who go there are not from the town of Wolfville. So my question is the same ask being made of the municipality of Kings and also Kentville? In relation to the balanced budget, that's great, you got there. One of my concerns, though, is that I understand we're drawing on reserves to make it balanced. And having listened to some of the discussions over the last 6 months, many projects have been coming in over budget. And so I do have a concern that moving forward, that we have we I would rather not see us drawing on reserves at the beginning of the year. That's simply my comment. And I know it's a challenging situation to meet. In relation to going forward, one of the items on the capital budget is the decorative lights to Willow Park. We do have street lights. I would like to ask that as you consider going forward, that be removed until all streets in town have at least one sidewalk and that they are all in good repair rather than decorative lights. And I was glad to hear that there is going to be a sidewalk, Safe Sidewalk Canada going to be looking at the condition of our sidewalks. And finally, on the process of all the meetings that I was able to go to, there was one, and I don't know whether it was in October or November, that we had in the fire hall. And that was when you as a council looked at your goals that you had set for the 4 years. And it wasn't very well advertised, but of all the meetings, I think that is really a way to engage people and you share what you feel about your priorities, but also ask people to come and say, these were our priorities, you know, what are you thinking? But maybe you have all those answers already through input. How am I doing for time?
You got a minute.
Okay. I know another item on the agenda tonight is the request to rezone to MDU. And we have a couple of great developments that are looking to do that. But just some thoughts. When going through the process to change the municipal planning strategy, a lot of time was spent on that, but the devil is in the details. And I had printed off after things were approved, including the land use bylaw, what I understood to be the land use bylaws. And when I checked, having read the proposals, the rezoning section in the land use bylaws that was originally written got amended. And I think that may have been a correcting process. But as I read it now, there is the ability to basically, except for R1 at this time, request a rezone to any other zone. So I know R1 is going to be looked at more closely in the fall. And I would just like to ask council to think about, do we really want to be able to rezone everything to MDU? Because that in essence means we have, as I understand it, one zone.
Thank you, Caroline. If you have written notes that you wish to give to our clerk.
Well,
that-
they're my other
Okay,
things I could
okay.
talk about.
That's good. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else for public input or anybody online? Trevor? Sorry? There's no one else online? Thank you. All right, back to, thank you. And again, my apologies. I need a little bit wider desk to keep all of these things in front of me. So Councillor Butler, that brings us back to, there are a number of budget motions. This one is RFD 029. Read the MOU with Acadia. I'm assuming that's a budget motion?
No, I still have motion number letter B to do.
B, right,
Yep.
right.
If you're ready.
Yes,
All set? Okay. I would move that council approve the 2024-2025 grants to organizations under general government, community development, not part of strategic and community partnership policy as follows. Grants to organizations under general government, community development, not part of strategic and community partnership policy. Acadia Scholar Bursaries, 11,000. Acadia University, events hosting contribution of 10,000. Summer camps, 15,000. Pool operating contribution of 60,000. Fitness, 50,000. and Devour, second installment of one-time capital grant of $50,000.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Thank you. Councillor Ingham, are there any questions of staff or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is passed. I think there are 6 or 7 more.
Oh yeah, I'll keep on
So
going. It's
just-
good
just keep-
practice for my voice.
It is. You might not have a voice at the end though.
They'll love that. I would move that council, okay, that's weirdly worded. I would move that through the MOU working groups, Acadia report to council quarterly on numbers of recreation and facility use.
Seconder, please. Councillor McKay, are there any questions or comments from council to staff? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's passed. Continue.
I would move that council approve the hiring of a full-time project manager position for the Department of Engineering and Public Works at a salary cost up to $100,000 per annum plus benefits as part of the 2024-2025 budget.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Thank you. Councillor Madeira Voss, questions or comments of council to staff? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is passed.
I would move that council acknowledge the recruitment of a new senior planner for a 3-year term position funded by the Housing Accelerator Fund at a salary cost of $95,000 per annum plus benefits as part of the 2024-2025 budget.
Seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Madeira Voss. Questions or comments of staff? Or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And just before you go on, I would, for the benefit of those who might be watching, all of these budget items have been incorporated in the overall budget and have been discussed earlier. So if people are wondering why there's no discussion, that is why. Go ahead, Councillor Butler.
I would move that council approve a $20,000 one-time grant contribution to Events Acadia to support their strategic bid and hosting efforts as part of the 2024-2025 budget.
Seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor McKay. Questions of staff or comments by council? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, that is passed.
I would move that council approve a $25,000 one-time capital grant contribution to the Wolfville Curling Club to support accessibility upgrades to their facility as part of the 2024-2025 budget.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Seconder, please. Councillor McKay. Questions of staff or comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, that is passed. Coming to the home stretch.
I know, I'm excited. I would move that council approve a $50,000 one-time capital grant contribution to the Wolfville Historical Society to support repairs to Randall House as part of the 2024-2025 budget.
Seconder, please. Councillor Madeira Voss. Questions of staff, comments from council? Councillor McKay.
Thank you. Just a comment, I had some questions on this, I was confused by the first presentation and some iterations that came through. And for the public's benefit, we did get a detailed email from Catherine, the staff at Randall House, to let us know that that will be put to use immediately. It certainly will leverage other grants, but it will be put to use immediately, and the roof will be fixed henceforth
Yes.
for the
thank you.
public's benefit. They wouldn't have seen our email.
Other comments? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is passed. And last one,
Last one
last
for me.
budget one.
Last budget one. I would move that council acknowledge that the approved project-specific increase to the capital budget in the 2024-2025 fiscal year of $610,000 to carry out the full scope of work in the East End parking lot includes work to the value of $21,000 attributed to the betterment of the Wolfville Legion parking and walkway areas.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Palmer. Any questions of staff or comments from members of council? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is passed. Again, thank you, staff, for all your hard work. And thank you, council, for all of our hard work. All right, that brings us to the next item, RFD 031-2024, donation of a box car. I feel we'll be having some happy claps too. Staff, we have the report. Staff planning to make any presentation?
No.
All right, such
I don't
levity.
have anything else to add, but if there's any questions.
No,
then
any
I can-
questions? Let's put the motion on the floor. Somebody like to put that motion on the floor? Councillor Palmer, thank you.
Sorry, thank you. I would move that council approve the donation of the box car to the Musquodoboit Harbor Heritage Society at no cost or liability to the town. All logistics or removal to be worked out with town staff and the society.
Thank you. A seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor McKay. Any questions of staff or comments? Councillor Palmer, your light is on.
When is,
Councillor McKay,
when is it being moved?
yeah, you want to get a picture?
That part is still to be worked out.
All right. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is passed, and I would very much like to thank our clerk, who I understand you were responsible for making that happen, and much appreciated. All right. Director Lake, so we have first reading of the rezoning of 123 Highland Ave and also of Gasbro Ave. Are you going to do one presentation for both, Director Lake? Thank you.
I will be signing off, so I will not be continuing on. It is 3 minutes to 7, so I just wanted to say so long.
Yes. Many songs about rezonings. It's my next album. Yeah. Okay, so just as this opens, I did write a supplemental report that I was going to just step through because really the two pieces, the two files really came with the same issues coming out of committee of the whole. So I just want to kind of walk you through this, just making sure that we're all on the same page. So this is all good, Laura, it's shared and okay. So yeah, I've just packaged this as a single report, as I say, and this is corresponding to both Highland and Gasbro rezonings. And so I'll just step you through here. So this is sort of from my seat, some of the misunderstandings perhaps, and it was acknowledged, you know, the town has been doing things in a certain way for a really long time. And so this is a learning process and I acknowledge that. And I think sometimes I need to step through these different pieces. So I was trying to do that here, but also I think it's important that everyone kind of digs into the documents where a lot of that detail does live. So the first point is just around some uncertainty around process. And I think a lot of that is just what we've normalized here. So the big point here is what we're doing is we're giving development rights on these properties. And then the land use bylaw is really taking over. The primary administrator of the land use bylaw is our development officer. I am also a development officer, but through the site plan approval process, it's fairly prescriptive. And so all of the metrics that they have to meet are laid out in the land use bylaw, including around subdivision. And what could happen is they are not able to meet those metrics, things change. And that's when you may see this back at council. Certainly from where I'm at right now, I've seen a lot of projects come through the planning cycle, and with the amount of uncertainty and change that's happening in the construction economy, we've seen files back here, like 292 Main Street. So I don't want to rule anything out, but the idea here is to give the private investment that is coming into town some certainty around the level of diligence that they have to perform to even really have us look at their application fully. And so I included this checklist, which we do have in the land use bylaw as more of a summary, but it just sort of gives an indication that for a development agreement or site plan approval, we require the same level of detail, same level of drawings. And so I've expanded on a few of them here. So the first one is just around traffic. So traffic and parking are probably the two things that I talk about more than anything. And for both of these sites, we would be requiring a traffic statement, which is really a short traffic study that looks both locally at the site and looks at upstream, downstream impacts. We have a number of traffic studies as well that have been compiled over the years. But anyone that's gone through, even on the largest sites that we've developed, the West End or the East End, you'll know that a lot of this is, if this happens in 20 years, you shall do X. And it's often levels of service at intersections is what a lot of the recommendations of a traffic study would indicate. There's often localized impacts just around egress. Sometimes there's parking in a downtown site, but often the recommendations that I've dealt with in Wolfville are not immediate, because we're not, especially in a location like that, there's not a ton of traffic coming in and out of Gasbro. These are also sites that can be accessed in and out of town. Just to address the comment earlier, part of the reason that, from at a staff level, we're supporting these rezonings is because of their location, because they're adjacent to the highway and they're on what we would call an arterial road, which takes people in and out of the town. And so I don't think there is a future where the entire town is zoned MDU. I'm prepared to be wrong on that, but I don't think that's a future that the town is steering towards. Stormwater management, again, this is at the top of the hill. I've heard from a number of people around this concern. Again, Alex would be overseeing drawings that we're receiving from both of the developers would be providing us drawings from an engineering firm that would have to meet our fairly new stormwater management guidelines. So Alex has been working with those, I think, fairly successfully since you've been here. So the idea is that there's no net impact from the site. So that the impact of how much water is coming off the site after it's developed should be equal to what's happening today. With servicing, there was a number of questions asked about these. I'll just say that that's something that we are always looking at. And that's really to do with water sewer capacity coming into the site, leaving the site. Architectural design, I mean, with development agreements, frankly, this is what most of the conversation at council ends up being, is around what kind of buildings people are proposing. And I realize that is a bit of a challenge here when we're really just looking at boxes that we drew in the land use bylaw that are regulating maximums, right? And so I think where these aren't in an architectural control area, we don't have as much of a mandate to regulate exactly what these look like. Subdivision of land, this came up. And both of the applicants spoke to this at the meeting, but I think on the Highland site, the reality is it's probably 2 properties, up to 120 units on each. And Peter Polly and Michael, who are here today, discussing the Gasbro site, it has a second access. It has a lot of road frontage on Gasbro. And so I think the reality of that site is probably it's 3 lots. And I've indicated all of this in the report. I'm just summarizing this. Building height, certainly in my time, this has been a lot of discussion has happened on this issue. We have been, I think, very thoughtful and deliberate about discussions that we've had around building height, including in the East End. We took a significant amount of time. We had a number of years of discussion on building height in the downtown. And again, these sites are up against Highway 101, very close to the highway. And I've already said this in previous presentations, but I think this is as good as we're going to get for locations to accommodate this type of scale. I do allude to some comments made by Mr. Pauly at the last meeting, just talking about project viability around projects that have been built in the past in town and some of the cost realities that they're facing at this point and some of the scale that is needed to deliver a project that they believe their clients want to live in. And I think they certainly know the market really well at this point. This is where I'd like to focus a little more today. So we've been having discussions with both applicants around public benefit. I think with these kind of projects, certainly in my experience, what's often not done super well is people in the immediate vicinity of the projects don't see a benefit to the public realm. And I think that's really a big focus of planning, is trying to improve the public realm through the private investment that's coming in town. So we've been working on a framework here just so we're all sort of in the same place on this. So I'll just talk about the Highland site first. So it backs directly onto Evangeline Park. I don't know if people have visited Evangeline Park recently. It has a bit of play equipment. It is well used every time I'm there. But I think there is an opportunity to have additional investment in the space. And it does have a bit of a natural play theme. So I think that is something we could keep pursuing there. The developer is very interested in community gardens as well, which could be adjacent to the park and have a public use there. The big connectivity piece is there really isn't a way to safely move from Highland to Pleasant, and the investments that we're making there with our AT network. So that is high on the priority list. And then we've been talking, certainly with the wayfinding work that started along quite a few years ago, just about having a bit of gateway signage as you're coming into Wolfville through Highland and Gasbro and Maple, just to indicate you're now in the town. So all of this has been discussed with both applicants who are interested in doing so. On the Gasbro site, it's obviously different context. We have an old road reserve that is fairly significant along the frontage of Gasbro. It doesn't seem, and I have discussed this with him, that the developer across the street is in a position to move forward with additional phases of their development. So I think some of this can really help the streetscape, integrating a safe way for people to walk. It also can have some other elements like parking or public art, seating. It's this really significant area. I think I'm covering everything here. And then I just have a couple of lists that I've included here that would make up the contributions that we've been working towards. Obviously, as we move through these processes, I'm kind of checking in with council before we move to the next level of detail is really what I've been doing through this. So these have been included. I think I just said all of this, so I won't say it again. There has been a thought, sorry, one thing I did miss, this is important. So there are some existing trails along the highway, and this was actually Mr. Pauly bringing these ideas forward, and people do traverse some of those trails. I've actually traveled on some of those trails in the past, but they're kind of really informal and they depend on foot traffic. So formalizing some of those from a connectivity perspective is something that certainly the Gasbro developer is very interested in. And what we were showing here was just a safety fence to make sure that that's also incorporated as part of this. This is a close-up of that. This is a drone shot of that road right away, just to show you the scale of this. It's a really large area. We have had different discussions about this area with when this development was in front of council. Again, my conversation recently is that the additional 10-unit development rights that were given in the back aren't moving forward in the foreseeable future. And I think these improvements would actually help that project, would be my honest opinion about this. And yeah, there's a number of features here that the developer is really interested in contributing to putting in. And the time scale for this, I think I indicated in the report, would be in the short term once they get the project started. I think that's all. I just want to make sure that is all, though. Yeah, I have some motions here. I realize there is a typo in number 2. This shouldn't say that include at inclusions. So I apologize with that. It just should say with inclusions outlined. And yeah, that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lake. My question would be particularly for the Gasbro development. The access from the property to Gasbro Avenue, isn't that where the big cliff is there? Isn't there a cliff there now? Yeah, so that's going to be quite an opening and a lot of, that's a big project just to get a road. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, and
Yeah. Yes and a no, yeah. Good. Yeah, okay, so, but that's where you're looking at the entrance.
That's where you get your gravel from, right? That's what you told us, Councillor Ingham.
Yeah, so my question's on Gasbro also. So obviously with the 3 lots, that could potentially be 360 more units. So you did mention traffic. I understand the active transportation on Highland Avenue. How is it looking on Gasbro? I can't visualize it because I'm thinking that's a long way to go, you know, up. We don't have much going up that hill. What's it going to look like? I mean, we already put the 4-way stop sign in there, right? So my concern is safety and traffic, because we've had more buildings on the east side. I'm trying to get my bearings, but the east side has been a lot. So there's a lot of development at the top. So my question is regarding traffic and where is the sidewalk going to go, or how are you going to loop up into active transportation there?
So we have an active transportation corridor being put in along all of Pleasant, east to west. And so that will be a key connection to get people depending on where they want to go, really.
About like Gasbro Avenue.
So there would be a crossing from the entrance over to a sidewalk on the east side along the road corridor. You can see it on the screen here that it's this blue line would be yeah, sorry. Bigger. Yeah. So there, within the AT plan that we have funded through the province and the federal government, the bottom side of Gasbro actually has traffic calming that would be coming as part of that plan. That will probably look like what we're putting in on Kent Avenue this year. And so there's I would call it fairly wide sweeping AT that's going in all different parts of town. The main connection, though, that this sidewalk would come down to is the Pleasant Street connection that would take people really wherever they want to go, depending on how safe they want to be, really. I think the safest way to get downtown would be probably to go over to Highland and come down a fully separated sidewalk. I hope that people will also feel safe going straight down Gaspereau. I'm talking more, yeah.
Councillor McKay?
Thank you. So I actually don't have any doubt that between staff and the developers that those two sites would be developed in great ways. I'm not familiar with the Highland group as much as Mr. Polly's work in town and in Halifax, and from everyone I know who lives there, they love living there. They've done a great job of those buildings. So I think those are great. What I'm struggling with has actually nothing to do with what their work is. It's what our work is. And it's, I look back and I think we have a housing crisis and we have a healthcare crisis because we've had an influx of people and we didn't plan accordingly. Like you said, broad strokes, not we didn't do that, but the general country didn't do that. Certainly our province didn't. So I'm concerned with, I hear that we are going to have active transportation. And I know we've seen iterations of plans from Director Lake, but what is that going to look like? What is the traffic calming? What's our crosswalks plans? Like we put those in our budget, but we just I haven't seen a fulsome discussion or plan of what they are. We've talked about micro transit for 5 years, but don't have a plan. So I'm concerned about putting a cart before the horse type of deal, saying, hey, everybody, let's come move here. And we haven't planned for that infrastructure. And that goes for wastewater and stormwater and everything that goes with it. Because I did drive up and see those two and tried to figure out where everyone would go to. I took the back road out to see, and if you go from Gaspereau, you would come over and then you're still going down Maple to get out of town or to get downtown, because to go up and around, you would actually basically to go backwards to Gaspereau and back around. And the same with Highland, you might go out to the highway, but you wouldn't go the opposite way. Everyone would be coming downtown. And the last thing I want is for people to, one, not enjoy the town that they live in and to get there. And two, everything that is commercial is downtown. And if I relive the one-way street where everyone said it was too busy and we're not going downtown and businesses were quite upset. We don't want that either. So for me, it doesn't have anything to do with the two developers and what they plan on doing. I think the plan's great. I'm concerned about the work we have to do to make sure those things can be as great as they can be. And that's where I sit. So I'm curious then if we could, I can only speak for myself, whatever council wants, but I would like to see those packages together and see what it looks like to say, can we do that? Because I think we're going to be really close to attaining our housing accelerator fund in our 10 years at this rate, because that's 800 units right off the bat, not including the West End or the East End, right? So I think we're doing a great job actually at that so far. Considering we just got it in the spring. So I'm just wondering how that all comes out. And my last question is, community benefit, public benefit. Who decides what that is at the end? I mean, I think signs are nice, but I'm not sure that everyone that's living there would say that would be at the top of their list. Maybe the park would be like, more things in the park might be better for their livability than the sign, because I'm not sure they would know where they live. So I'm not sure the fire sign would be that great for them. But so I'm curious about those types of things. So I'd like to say, yeah, let's build all kinds of things, but I'm concerned about our infrastructure and how we sustain that to keep everyone happy in this little town we live in. Those were broad sweeping questions.
Yeah, it's so I think on the AT side, I think we're in a really positive position. We have an AT network that's funded, and a lot of places I think would be kind of dying for that problem of really we're implementing now, which is really positive. We're tendering a package for the first phase, and I have no doubt that we will finish that up. The microtransit was really tied into what King's Transit's doing, and I hope that we can move that forward. I think that would really help projects like this. I know, Peter's also in Woodman's Grove, he mentioned having a whole fleet of bikes for part of his residence. And I think, right, yeah. I mean, some of the other, like the sort of package that you're referring to, I think that's our planning documents. I think our planning documents are based in a lot of information and a lot of work. And I think they are to the private investor, that is like kind of the rule book of can I invest here or not, to kind of bring another package forward to show our readiness to receive this investment. I think that's kind of what we're doing in the fall by doing a plan review with the Accelerator Fund, is kind of looking at the big picture again. I think, and I'm certainly at the will of council to bring another package forward to sort of lay out. What I'm hearing is like, are we ready for this type of thing?
Yeah. And I'm not saying we aren't, I'm just saying, you're definitely doing a great job Alex is doing his, but when we sit around the table, our job is to piece all of those puzzles, put that puzzle back together and say, are we hitting all of our strategic initiatives, and are we making this the best town for the people that live here and that want to live here? And maybe I can't see all of these pieces together yet, or what the time frame of what those might be. And if we said AT is going to be here in 2 years, and we think microtransit will be here in 4, like if we have all of those things laid out, then we come back and we say this is the plan. I mean, you can tell people that this is the plan, because I think when this goes out to the public, they too will have a lot of the same questions and saying, no different than they did at the East End when we did a comprehensive review. All of those same questions came up of how do we navigate this space with X many more people here, when it's a wonderful problem to have. Because I was just in London, Ontario, and I'm telling you, our downtown is much busier than theirs, and it was wonderful to see. But I think it also can lead to frustrations. So as long as we plan for those frustrations, I think it would be amazing.
I would just say about the AT, like we are essentially a funding contract, so we have to finish that work by 2027. So I think that's a very positive part of this narrative as far as people moving around the town. We also have been supported really well with our sewer treatment plant, which also has different types of funding deadlines, which also supports growth. And we're doing more exploration on our water system as well. Yeah, it's a bigger question, I think, that everyone's challenged with right now. The province hasn't seen a ton of growth, and I think it's a fair question. But I think at this point, to move this forward, as far as the public benefits go, that's why I'm here talking at a framework level before we really get into any detailed design. Is when you say who decides, that's why I'm here in front of council doing a presentation, showing a framework, putting lists in front of you with all the different elements. I'm pulling all of this from discussion and different pieces that I've been working on, but absolutely, if there's different elements or other things that we want to include, let's talk about them now.
I think just because we're so used to doing development agreements like 292, we have public benefits with them. But we decided what those were through the development agreement process. This one is just, we haven't done this one in this way before, so I wasn't sure. I mean, clearly there'd be discussion and you would be bringing them back, but would it be a motion of council that said, we approve these public benefits of whatever those are, or is that through the site plan and the developer and staff do that? Because that's a new piece for us.
I'd like to have a commitment as we move forward so that everyone's on the same page what's coming. That's why I'm doing this like right now. is I would like to have a discussion about the contribution that not just the housing and the tax benefit that we receive from this level of investment. But I also think the thing that's missing sometimes in these conversations is like Peter, I think, said 8 years you'd be working on this site. These projects take quite a bit of time to pull together. And on the Highland site, they're talking about doing 2 phases. So we're not talking about someone coming in and dropping down 200 units. This, again, even with, and you mentioned the accelerator getting started with this number of units, the metric on the accelerator isn't planning approval, it's permits. And it's actual doors and buildings in the ground. And so I can tell you that most of the planning that I'm doing, a lot of it's not getting built. And so this is happening everywhere. I mean, in HRM, I'm being told by them that they think it's going to take 3 or 4 years before people kind of catch up to the scale of change that's coming there. And so there's kind of a cycle of trying to capture some of this investment, to be honest, as they're ready to do a project in town. And as Peter's mentioned, he wants to move his crew to this site. So yeah, I think all things considered, we're really fortunate to have these projects at this time, where we have such a high need for housing and this type of housing. But I really do want to tease out this public benefit discussion even more. So if there are other things, we still have a public hearing that we're going through, and we will still have a decision by council. And I would say that, if there's a strong desire to have A instead of B, then we can do that. And I think if there's more thought that's needed, we still have a couple of meetings and weeks before we're going to get there. Yeah.
Councilor Madeira Voss.
Thank you, Mayor Donovan. I just wanted to say that I found the reference that was made to the 8 years for the Gaspereau or the 2 phases for Highland very useful, because when we discussed the East End development and the fact that it would probably take up to 15 years to have that completed, I guess I visualized that within those 15 years, a lot of those infrastructure issues would be addressed as they come up or within that scope, so that they, I think there's, to me, that suggests that there's time built in for us to do some of that, not only planning, but maybe adjustments, because we may find in that time that things are going to have to change in what we're planning for now. So it was helpful for me to have that period of time identified for these projects. I also like the inclusion of public benefit. I don't think that was there at the PAC presentation, was it? Did I recall?
Not in this detail. No,
No,
I've
and I-
been kind of taking direction as we go on this.
Yeah, and that was the thing, I think one of the things that came up, it wasn't discussed fully, but it was really helpful to see the public benefit be identified now. I know for me in helping in supporting the East End development, that was a big issue, was the fact that we identified 5 new trails and a water course that will include frogs and all these things that will be of benefit to people who actually live in that. And to see this public benefit, I like that piece along that Gaspereau side, because I think it's unfortunate that the development that happened there doesn't look like what it was supposed to look like when PAC approved it 5 or 6 years ago. So I think this is a good step in helping to improve an area that definitely needs attention. But if there are other things that we can think of before the public think, then I think it's useful for us to be aware that we still have some room there, maybe to think of other things. The other question I have is under architectural style. Director, like you mentioned, that's really doesn't come into this discussion. But I did find it, again, helpful with the East End that we were told that these larger, taller buildings would not be blocks, that they would be stepped, from, 5 to 7 or whatever, or stepped along the land shape, but the slope, but that we weren't going to be facing giant cubes. I guess that was my fear, and that we were, even though the architectural details certainly weren't provided, I would like for this project to get a sense of what the architectural ideas, at least being thrown out, are. And I think for the purposes of the public hearing, I think people from the public would also like to know what things might look like. I think that the architectural side of things is very important to our residents. And so if we could possibly have as much information, along the public benefit, but also on the architectural side, I think that would be very helpful.
Can I just make a comment on that? So I am taking a bit of a list here on things that I can ask the applicants to, I'm going to get them both to do another presentation at the public hearing. And so I think as we've been working, their thinking has developed as well. And that is another great thing that they can cover is they might not have their buildings designed, but they can speak to what they're working towards.
I wanted to build on something that Councillor McKay said, and you went a different place than I thought you were going to, but when you first started to speak, my sense was it's not just about the immediate public benefit, although you talked about public benefit of these buildings, but you're right, might be 300 people here and 200 people here and 3,000 people here. It adds up, and maybe one of the things we haven't done, and you're talking, I'm thinking, is this a council strategic planning process for the next council? Is it is it a budget process to kind of understand what we want to be the build out environment of our town and have some performance indicators? What we've tended to do, I think, is places get built and then we have the taxes and we can do the thing that we said we were going to do. Meanwhile, we have a lot more people in town. So maybe that's just put a pin in that, and that whether it's the next council's strategic plan or if it's something that leads into the budget, many communities will say by 60% build out, there will be sidewalks or whatever makes sense. Given we do have financial constraints, but Councillor McKay, that's where I thought you were going. I thought it's a good idea. Your other idea was good too, but I think that is something that maybe we've been missing in terms of what's this going to look like and how soon are we going to get there? Because we often are always saying, well, as soon as it's built, you're going to have a sidewalk, but that could be 15 years. So meanwhile, people are living with dust and without sidewalks and so on, and it's a balance. But are there any other comments? Then we'll get the motion, and I think we may need that up on the screen because there's not a motion in the motion list.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So, Devin, so we're going to come back with a public hearing with some designs from, not designs, but like rough drawings, I'll call them. And you're going to come back with some information on active transportation. I mean, so I know a lot of it you already have, but you're going to come back. So when we go to the public with this information, we'll have active transportation, streets, crosswalks, like trails, parks, and the public benefit sort of, and the drawings in a little kind of package to see what that's going to look like.
Yeah, I think I
Is that
can.
next step?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I'm just thinking on the spot here, but I think I can try to kind of knit something together. Like I think I'm catching what you're like. You want something that's shows the kind of the big picture and how these pieces are coming together, and we have that information. We can package it for you. And from the developers, yes, I don't think either of them will have their buildings designed, but I think they can both speak to the intent of what they're working towards. They have both done more thinking, I can tell you for sure. And yes.
And both have done these projects multiple times over, so sort of probably most are similar in style, or yeah.
I probably won't advertise for the public hearing until I have done a bit of this work. I have the package kind of finalized, just with some of the public benefit and more of an agreement format. And then I'll put that all out and at once. So I'll apprise council of when I have to advertise for a couple of weeks anyway. So the date I'll have to work out with council as well.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. So I'll read the first motion. Okay. RFD 027-2024 supplemental report, first reading PA 2024-001, rezone 123 Highland Avenue S2E. The council give first reading to a land use bylaw amendment to change the zoning of properties on Highland Avenue, PIDS 55271-738 and 553-50045 from R3 medium density residential to high density residential multi-dwelling unit, R-MDU, as outlined in the resolution attachment 1.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Counselor Ingham, are there any other questions of staff or comments counselors would like to make? Do you have comment?
No.
No. All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's passed.
Okay. I would move the council provide direction to staff to ensure public benefits are negotiated that include at inclusions outlined in the supplemental report to RFD 027-2024.
Thank you. A seconder, please. Counselor Ingham, are there any additional questions or comments?
No, it didn't. I just read it. That include as outlined?
You want to reread?
That council provide benefit, oh goodness. That council provide direction to staff to ensure public benefits are negotiated with inclusions as outlined in the supplemental report to RFD 027-2024. Is that better grammar?
Seconder? Yeah. Okay. Questions, comments? All those, yes, Jen? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That is passed. And that is all for the public business. I'd now like a motion. We have another motion. I do not have motions in front of me.
I'll just read it. It's the Gaspereau,
Okay.
that one was Highland. This is the Gaspereau one.
For Highland?
Peter's looking for.
Yeah. Zero to purpose. Yeah. Two for
Yeah,
each.
I do not have motions. In
Yeah,
front of me.
no, it's not. Okay, so I would, this is RFD 028-2024 supplemental report, first reading PA 2024-002, rezone Gaspereau Avenue Polycor. The council give first reading to a land use bylaw amendment to change the zoning at a property on zoning of a property on Gaspereau Avenue, PID 55274575 from R3 medium density residential to high density residential multi-dwelling unit, R-MDU, as outlined in the resolution attachment 1.
Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Ingham. Questions of staff or comments? Yes, Councillor Palmer.
Director Lake, is there only one PID there for that whole project, for that whole property already?
There is right now.
Okay. Other questions? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We have another one.
Yep. I would move the council provide direction to staff to ensure public benefits are negotiated with inclusions outlined in the supplemental report to RFD 028-2024.
Thank you, Councillor Ingham. Questions, comments? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That is passed. Now, I have a motion to adjourn to in camera under the Municipal Government Act, section 22(2)(e), dealing with contract negotiations.
So moves.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer, and seconder. Second that, Councillor Ingham. All in favor, indicate by saying aye. 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 Opposed? We are in camera, and if all members of the public would